Moonlight by Guy de Maupassant. Madame Julie Roubert was waiting for her elder sister, Madame Henriette Letore, who had just returned from a trip to Switzerland. The Letores had been away for about 5 weeks. Henriette had allowed her husband to return alone to their estate in Calvados to attend to his affairs, while she went to Paris to spend a few days with her sister. Evening was drawing in. In the small parlour, dimmed by twilight and furnished with bourgeois taste, Madame Roubert read absent-mindedly, raising her eyes at every slight sound. At last, the bell rang, and her sister entered, dressed in a flowing travelling gown. Before they could even get a clear look at one another, they threw themselves into each other's arms, pulling apart only to embrace once more. An animated conversation began. While Madame Letore took off her hat and untied her veil, they exchanged news about their health and family, discussing 1,000 trifles, interrupting one another and skipping from theme to theme. The shadows deepened. Madame Roubert rang and ordered a lamp to be brought. When the light was lit, she looked at her sister, intending to embrace her again, but suddenly she froze, startled, confused, and speechless. On Henriette's temples, she noticed 2 large streaks of white hair. Her hair, once as black and lustrous as a raven's wing, was now streaked with silver threads that vanished into the thick darkness of her tresses. And yet, she was not yet 24. This change had happened abruptly, following her trip to Switzerland. Madame Roubert gazed at her in astonishment, on the verge of tears, as if her sister had been struck by some unknown, terrible misfortune. "What is the matter, Henriette?" she asked. The other smiled sadly, with a touch of painful tenderness. "Nothing, truly. Are you looking at my white hair?" But Madame Roubert impulsively seized her by the shoulders, searching her eyes, and repeated, "What is the matter with you? Tell me. If you lie, I shall know it instantly." They stood face to face. Henriette, turning deathly pale, lowered her eyes, and tears began to glisten. The sister insisted. "What happened? What is it? Speak." Broken by this persistence, Henriette whispered, I have a lover." And, burying her face in her younger sister's shoulder, she burst into sobs. When she had calmed down a little, when the convulsive gasping had subsided, she began to speak as if seeking to unburden herself of the heavy secret, to pour her grief into a heart close to her own. They sat together on a sofa in a dark corner of the parlour, holding hands. The younger sister put her arm around the elder, pressed her head to her breast, and listened. "Oh, I seek no excuses for myself. I do not understand it myself. Since that day, it is as if I have been possessed. Beware, my dear, beware. If you only knew how weak we are, how easily we yield, how swiftly we fall. A trifle is enough, a passing impulse, a moment of tenderness, a sudden melancholy, or the simple desire to be held, to be caressed, to be kissed. It overtakes us so suddenly. You know my husband, and you know how I love him. But he is no longer young, he is a man of reason, and the trembling emotions of a woman's heart are foreign to him. He is always steady, kind, smiling, polite, flawless. But oh, how I sometimes long for him to suddenly seize me in his arms, to kiss me long and sweetly, like a silent confession. I want him to feel lonely, to feel weak, to need me, my touch, my tears. It is all foolish, but that is how we women are made. We have no power over it. And yet, the thought of deceiving him never crossed my mind. And now it has happened. Without love, without reason, without meaning. It was simply the night, and the moon was shining over Lake Lucerne. During the month we travelled together, my husband, with his calm indifference, stifled every spark of enthusiasm in me. He dampened my every impulse. When we were racing down a mountain at dawn in a coach drawn by 4 horses, and I, seeing the valleys, forests, rivers, and villages through the morning mist, clapped my hands and said, "How beautiful it is, my friend, kiss me." He only shrugged his shoulders and replied with a good-natured smile. It chilled me to the very depths of my soul. It seems to me that when you love, truly love, the sight of anything beautiful that stirs the heart only makes you want to love even more deeply. At times, poetic impulses would wake within me, but he suppressed them instantly. How can I explain it to you? I felt like a cauldron filled with steam, yet tightly sealed. One evening, we had been staying at a hotel in Fluelen for 4 days. Robert felt a slight migraine and went up to bed immediately after dinner. I went out alone for a walk along the lake. The night was magical. A full moon shone in the sky. The mountains, with their snow-capped peaks, seemed draped in silver, and a gentle shimmer glided across the mirror-like surface of the water. The air was soft, filled with that relaxing warmth that leads to exhaustion and brings on a sweet, inexplicable languor. How responsive the soul is in such moments, how easily it is stirred, how keenly it feels. I sat down on the grass, gazing at that vast, melancholy, enchanting lake, and something strange happened inside me. I felt an unquenchable thirst for love and a rebellion against the dull monotony of my life. Was I never to walk arm in arm with a loved one along a steep shore bathed in moonlight? Was I never to know those long, infinitely sweet, maddening kisses exchanged on such tender nights, nights seemingly created by God Himself for a caress? Was I never, not even once, to be held by passionate arms in the luminous dusk of a summer evening? And I began to sob like a madwoman. Then, I heard a slight rustle. A man was standing behind me, watching. When I turned, he recognized me and stepped closer. "Are you crying, madam?" He was a young lawyer traveling with his mother. We had crossed paths several times. I had often felt his eyes lingering on me. I was so shaken that I did not know what to say, or what to invent. I stood up and murmured that I was feeling unwell. He walked beside me with respectful ease and began to speak of our journey. He put into words everything I was feeling, everything that made me tremble. He understood just as I did, perhaps even better. And suddenly, he began to recite poetry to me, the verses of Musset. I gasped, overcome by an indescribable emotion. It seemed as if the lake itself, the mountains, the moonlight, everything was singing something unutterably tender. And then, it happened. I do not know how, I do not know why. It was as if I were in a state of hallucination. And I only saw him the next day, just before our departure. He handed me his card. Madame Letore, exhausted, collapsed into her sister's arms. She groaned, almost cried out in pain. Thoughtful and grave, Madame Rubert said tenderly, "You see, sister, it often happens that we do not love the man himself, but love itself. And that night, your true lover was the moonlight."